Hey friendo, Steve here. Welcome back to Wrestle Juice. One of my favorite things to do here at the channel is to react to your guys' hot takes. Every week I post up a community tab thread where you guys let me know your controversial wrestling opinions and we talk about them. And then you guys let me know what you think about that in the comments. So I'm going to do something kind of like that today, but instead I'm going to go to Twitter, to the internet wrestling community, and take a look at some of the hot takes over there, or at least the takes that have people talking on Twitter. This one's from Kate over at Fightful, and she says in response to SmackDown's wrestling versus not wrestling ratio, 28 minutes and 2 seconds of wrestling in a 2-hour show, ain't it for me? And oh boy, the responses to this one were something else. It really created a bit of a firestorm, as you can see. So, you know, the unfortunate thing, and her point in like response to a lot of this is, you know, I just want to see people in WWE wrestle on WWE programming. But people, of course, take this and they take it to mean, oh, WWE sucks. AEW is great. They take that leap in logic from like a fairly mild criticism of WWE and how much time they allot for the wrestling in the World Wrestling Entertainment versus the entertainment in the World Wrestling Entertainment. And it's a very simple critique, and people take it way too far, and they go, what are you talking about? You're crap. You don't know what you're talking about. So to me, this is like a relatively mild criticism. As far as my opinion on the 28 minutes and 2 seconds of wrestling in a 2-hour show, I'm not really concerned too much with the amount of wrestling in an hour and 20 minutes of actual programming, given my way, because that's what 2 hours is 20 minutes of commercials per hour. So you actually get an hour and 20 minutes. That is light. 28 minutes is light. That is not normal. Like, I think I looked this up last week. It was like around 44 minutes. The week before that, I think it was closer to like 39. I forget what it was, but it's generally speaking in the area of between like 40 minutes and 45 minutes is usually the amount of wrestling you get for a 2-hour show. So, you know, that's what, an hour and 20 minutes, 40 minutes of that is usually wrestling for that's about half of the actual programmers. So this is less. This is much less than that. That doesn't bother me so much as, are you entertaining me? I buy into the characters and the story, and the wrestling moves that ahead in one way. Other things move it ahead in other ways. Promos, interviews like we saw this week with Bayley, backstage segments. Yes, I prefer the entire thing to be ratioed a certain way, which is usually closer to the 35 to 40 minute mark on wrestling. Usually I think that's pretty good, but as long as you're able to entertain me with the characters and the stories that you are presenting, which this week on SmackDown, I was fine with it. Like, I was entertained throughout most of the episode. As long as you're able to entertain me, I am fine. I do not need a 20-minute long Gunther match every single week, although we get that a lot on Raw, and I'm totally happy to get a 20-minute Gunther match every single week. That being said, all I really care about is, am I being entertained? Are the characters doing stuff to entertain me, to make me laugh, to make me cry? I don't really cry during wrestling, but you know what I mean. That's what I pay attention to. But to each their own. If wrestling is something that you prefer to see during a wrestling show, guess what? That makes a lot of sense. And if you want to criticize the lack of wrestling in a wrestling show, that also makes sense. And you should be allowed to do that without people coming after you saying, oh, what are you doing? They don't care about that. I mean, I grew up in the Attitude Era, man. It was like, when I first started watching wrestling, it was like 1998, 1997 WCW, and then I started watching WWE in 1998. Vince Russo's philosophy back then was, hey, bro, let's have a 2-minute match and then a backstage segment for 2 minutes and then another 2-minute match. And you might be lucky if you get 28 minutes of wrestling out of an Attitude Era episode of Raw. So I don't know, maybe the fact that this is an anomaly we should be grateful for, and we're not living in those days. Speaking of the Attitude Era, I'm glad I happened upon this one. Emilio Sparks. I love Emilio Sparks. I was happy to be a guest with him on some Fightful show. I forget which one. It might have been the one with Shaq on it. Not the NBA player, the MMA and pro wrestling coverage guy. It was like a round table thing. Anyways, super nice guy. And he's responding to this great criticism, or this great tweet here that says, this weird revisionist history of Attitude Era was bad is crazy. What are we even doing? Emilio, truthfully and honestly, I agree with this, as a majority of the Attitude Era was bad. It was a reaction to competition curated by unhinged minds at the rise of a crass culture. We look back with nostalgia, but all but the people who made money should be left in the echoes of history. I agree with this. And it's funny because, you know, in the moment, people are so much more willing to forgive really bad stuff because what came before it was really boring. The one thing that the Attitude Era did better than any other era in pro wrestling, the thing that actually made it good, is two things that actually made it so well revered after all this time by a lot of wrestling fans. Number one, the characters. The roster was stacked beyond belief. And not just that, the characters were so well realized that it was such a sea change from what came before. Everybody could relate to Stone Cold Steve Austin because we've all been in a situation where we wanted to kick our boss's ass. Most of my bosses have been like old ladies, so I've never wanted to do that. But I understand that people out there generally don't like their bosses. No offense to bosses out there. The other thing that the Attitude Era did really, really well was that sense of urgency. I sort of mentioned it talking about the 28 minutes of wrestling bit, is that the Crash TV formula really did work on a week-to-week basis. It was boom, 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 boom. It never let up. And that's something that I do think is missing in wrestling. One thing that Kate from Fightful had noted in one of the responses on the Twitter thread was they have a lot of entrances that go really, really long. We don't really need that all that much. And in fact, these days, when somebody doesn't have an entrance, they're referred to as a jobber entrance. I refer to it that myself. However, that should be the ideal entrance. We don't need to see a whole entrance of people coming out. Yeah, some of the theme songs are pretty good, but these days, some of the theme songs are kind of crap, and I really would prefer not to hear them. That being said, the Attitude Era is really not all it was cracked up to be. Even a lot of the stuff in the Ruthless Aggression era, there was good stuff there, but God, there was a lot of bullshit to sift through, namely anything involving Vince McMahon. During the Attitude Era, though, when the Austin McMahon feud was going on, it was actually really entertaining, and there were segments that were very entertaining. There were bits and pieces that were very entertaining, but by and large, it was fairly crass, and if you try to go back and look at it now, it's really not all that great. And it's not even coming from a perspective of like trying to be woke or virtue signaling or whatever like that. But if you go back and watch some of the actual episodes of Attitude Era Raw, I pulled this up on Cage Match right here. I've just got a random episode of Monday Night Raw from July 14th, 1998. So I guess that would be in the lead up to SummerSlam 1998. This is what was going on Raw, that if you tuned in that night, this is what you get. D'Lo Brown defeats Triple H in 6 minutes in a European title match. So D'Lo Brown, they immediately start off the show. That might have been, no, that wouldn't have been the main event. They started the show with D'Lo Brown versus Triple H in a 6-minute match in which a title changed hands. Next up, oh, this is in the middle of Brawl for All. Steve Williams defeats Pierre, who I think is, what's his face? Isn't that PCO? Probably PCO. I don't know. It doesn't even give me an amount of time, but it's probably less than 5 minutes. And then we had a singles match, Steve Blackman versus Jeff Jarrett. That went 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Then we had another singles match, Owen Hart versus Farouk. That went 5 minutes and 15 seconds. And then we had an almost 10-minute Intercontinental Championship match, The Rock versus X-Pac. And then we had a Texas Tornado 2-on-1 handicap match. Kane and Mankind beat Steve Austin in less than 5 minutes. Oh, that was by disqualification. How are you going to have a Texas Tornado match that ends in a DQ? That doesn't make any sense. Anyways, the Attitude Era, while it was pretty exciting at the time for like, what was I, 18 years old? When you go back and watch at it, a lot of it is really, really cringeworthy. And I'm not even talking about from like, I'm clutching my pearl standpoint. A lot of it is just actually bad and crass and not particularly entertaining. I don't know. I agree with this take, to be honest with you. And I grew up with it. Attitude Era is what got me. Look at this goddamn hoodie. I ripped off the Raw's War Attitude Era logo. The branding was also really good back then. The branding was outstanding back then. Anyways, what's my last take here? What else do I got? What's this? Oh, Juan of the Dead 209. Just a really awesome graphic designer guy. Designed one of our Going in Raw shirts. I should really hit him up and have him do another one. So this is in response to WWE now in partnership with Prime Energy Drinks and Hydration. I tried this. This one tastes like shit. The ice pop one is a bit better, but this Glowberry, not very good. But anyways, Prime is going to have their product on the mat, on the actual wrestling mat, and apparently, according to Mark Shapiro from TKO, they're going to do that with like a bunch of other products as well. They're going to have a bunch of products on the mat, which I love. I'll be honest with you. I have probably undiagnosed ADHD. I need constant stimulation. The more shit, the better. And this tweet made me laugh so much. I love one. He says, honestly, I'd rather brand logos on the ring mat over any of this shit. So here's the thing about this, is that I disagree in that I'll take brand logos on the ring mat and I'll take all this shit too. The Mountain Dew pitch black match was so stupid. You're taking a feud that was already bizarre. Bray Wyatt, may he rest in peace. And LA Knight, which was already a really weird feud. And in Bray Wyatt's I think this was like his first or second feud back. They do a branded match where it's just doused in black light. It was weird. It was short. Didn't overstay its welcome. Visually, it looked kind of cool. Not going to lie. Then they had the Pizza Hut stuff here for Survivor Series, which I'm not a fan of Pizza Hut. I think it tastes like shit, and it just seems amateur hour. But it kind of made me laugh. We had KSI in the Prime bottle up there, which was actually really funny. And then we had whatever's going on up here. Oh, this is the Cinnamon Toast Crunch branding all over the stuff. I like it. Look at how bright and colorful it is. And it's weird, and they're making money doing it. So like, hopefully the wrestlers will get paid more, but maybe not. I don't know. So I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I am a fan of just throwing a lot of shit. Look at AAA. AAA has got some of the most bizarre ad integrations you'll ever see in wrestling. There was a Triple Mania where they had like an old abandoned car just on the side of the stage because they were selling like, what is it? Bardal car oil, automotive oil. I love that shit. I think it's great. I think it's amazing. The more weird shit, the better as far as I'm concerned. It's wrestling. It's supposed to be all over the place, supposed to be all over the map. The Mountain Dew one really does take the cake, though. Or that weird Zombies one for that Zombies movie. That was a bit much. I'll be honest with you. That's kind of maybe where I draw my line. If you do like just a straight up Zombies match, that's weird.